Hey gamers, Maniac here with GamingSess.net doing what I believe to be was my first ever commentary on a video that I've produced entirely by myself. I've been wanting to do this commentary for quite a while. Not too long after I released this video, I got a lot of positive feedback from the people that did get a chance to watch it. I'm grateful for those comments that I've gotten on it. One person in particular actually said that I should release a DVD or release this documentary as a DVD with bonus features and things like that. Unfortunately, given the fact that I am not Microsoft, I don't own Halo, I didn't think I would have the legal grounds to be able to release a DVD with this content on my own. But I also decided if I was to do a DVD, what would I include with it? One of the things that I produced almost immediately after reading that comment were some deleted scenes from this, which I produced and did a bit of a special features documentary with the deleted scenes. Ironically enough, the deleted scenes that I did for this video actually had more views than the original video itself. I guess people really liked those scenes. But what else can you basically do from a DVD? And for me, that means commentary. And this is my commentary on waiting for Halo 4. I first got the inspiration to do this documentary many years ago. In fact, I think the first inklings I had to, or the first premonitions I had about making this, had to do right around the time that Bungie left Microsoft, and probably right around the release of Halo Reach or so, or after the release of Halo Reach, I decided, you know, Bungie is done with Halo. They've produced Halo games for 9 years. It was a big part of growing up for me. It was playing as the Master Chief and checking out many of the things that were going on in Halo news and things like that. But that having been said, this was more than just a personal thing for me. Halo has obviously impacted my lives. I think it's probably impacted a lot of gamers' lives. For me, Halo 3 had come out in 2007. And make no mistake, it ended on a cliffhanger. I know that a lot of people like to say, oh no, the story was over. But the Master Chief was out in space. Cortana was with him. Where, she only has a 7-year lifespan and things like that. And who knows where the Chief could end up drifting or anything like that. We had to wait 5 years for Halo 4 to come out to figure out what was going on. And if you're a Halo fan, or a fan of the Chief, a fan of Cortana, a fan of this story, you wanted to know what happened. 5 years is a long time. You wanted to know what happened to the end, to the Chief. It is a long time to wait for that kind of thing. So I had that in the back of my mind. The other thing that I had in the back of my mind, as I said earlier, was how much of an impact Halo had with me over the last couple of years. So that was the next inkling. The last thing that I had in mind was how to further analyze. Oh gosh. Right here, I'm really proud of this fade to white, because as you can see right here, this title card, if I can just get sidetracked for a second for what you're seeing, and there's obviously your host right there. That title card was produced by my girlfriend's roommate, actually, Justine, who does a web, she has a DeviantArt account, bashfulfruit.deviantart.com. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, if I got it wrong, then you can just obviously go back and take a look at it. She is a phenomenal artist, is really good at what she does. In fact, recently, as I'm recording this, she had just produced her own comic book, like seriously, like a full-on comic book. Produced quite many copies of it. I got one. Princess Angel got one. basically as a final project for her, just before she leaves college. And I really liked it a lot. I think she is a great artist. And sometime along, when I had the inkling I wanted to do this, I don't do title cards in my videos, but I knew that when I finally did produce this video was going to have a much higher production value than some of my other ones were. Typically, if you watch my videos, you'll know I have a regular formula that I like to follow. And that is that I usually will sit in front of a camera for about 20 minutes, no script, although I will have a good idea about what I'm going to say. And I'll usually sit in front of that camera and just rattle on with what's in my heart, basically, what is at the forefront of my heart at that point. And that seems to work pretty well for me. Given that I don't have too much experience with video editors, and the video software that I have is not very good. I'm using Windows Movie Maker, for God's sakes, to produce these things. I don't have much in the field of editing experience, and the facilities that I have, I don't really have access to $1 million systems or thousands of dollars for editing programs and $1 million cameras and things like that. So I produce what I can. I produce what I'm good at. But I knew that when I finally was going to tell this story, I wanted it to stand out from the rest of my videos. And so when I found out that Justine was an artist, I convinced her to do a title card for me for this video. And her first question was, how would you like, what would you like this title card to look like? Like with any artist, you're like, well, what are the specifications for the job? And I said, well, I need an image that's going to be 1900 by 1920 by 1080. Because I shoot in 1080p, so I'm going to need something to be able to match that. And she said that's fine. And I said that if you could you draw me in the recon armor? And I was so happy with that image. I really am. It was really a good piece of art, because the recon armor for me, which I'll get into later, or if you've seen the documentary, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Recon armor was something, had a big part of me, basically. It took me about a year to get recon armor in Halo 3, and I never forgot that. So I sidetracked a little bit, but I thought it was a bit relevant. As I said before, I typically will do like a bit in front of a camera for about 20 minutes off the top of my head, and that's what I typically produce. And I knew that there were at least 2 or 3 stories that I wanted to tell here for this video. One was, what was my experience with Halo? The second thing was about how grueling it was to wait for Halo 4 to come out after the cliffhanger that Halo 3 ended with. And finally, what I wanted to tell was why these characters meant so much to me, and talk about the Chief and the Cortana series and things like that. So this right here, what you're seeing on the screen, is one of the B-roll shots that I did. I'm really actually happy with this. When I was first designing the video, actually, I had this idea that I wanted to do these asides. I was going to tell one story main, which is what, obviously I was going to tell one story like I typically would in front of the camera, just going on about the wait for Halo 4. The other things I was going to do cutbacks to were going to involve my history with Halo, or how I got started with Halo. And there were basically 2 or 3 stories that I could tell about my history with Halo, and one of them is what I'm saying right now. For those of you who may be fans of my channel, this was shot by the unknown camera person. Unfortunately, I cannot reveal their identity. This was not the unknown camera person is not a Halo fan at all. Although I think my first experience with Halo, being exposed to Halo directly, might have been one of the unknown cameraman's roommates. I think that one of their roommates had an Xbox One pretty early, and when I was crashing their place many years ago, probably 10 years ago or something like that, when they were out in college, I spent a week and I crashed their place, and what happened was that one of the roommates had an Xbox and a copy of Halo, and I saw the manual for the first time. And I had this idea that I wanted to do these asides, basically, because I know that if you see me rambling on with with just rambling on. A lot of people don't like that style. A lot of people don't like when someone just rambles on for 20 minutes. Sometimes I've gotten a few comments about that, especially given the fact of that I am going without a script, and I mean, I'm good at doing this thing. It's what I'm good at, but some people don't like that, and I didn't think it worked too well for the stories that I wanted to tell for this video. I thought that this one required me to work a lot harder. I know that some people might be offended, or because obviously I didn't produce this video. This is obviously the Halo 2 announcement trailer. But what I wanted to do here was the Halo 2 announcement trailer I actually saw for the first time before I ever played Halo at all. I saw it pretty much the day it came out when it was released. This basically was premiered when the Halo 2 game when Halo 2 was announced. So when Halo 2 was announced, they had this to show, and that was it. And that was it for quite a while. It wouldn't be until E3 2003 when they actually showed some gameplay footage, which ironically enough I was there for, but I'll get into that later. I had not played Halo at all because I didn't have an Xbox. I was still a PC gamer, but even I had to stop and just rethink everything. I knew that by this point Halo was going crazy. People were really was clamoring over Halo. The buzz was certainly all over school about Halo. But I was kind of in a wait and see, because the way I figured it, Halo was very likely going to get ported to the PC at some point. And my intention was to kind of just wait until Halo, and of course eventually Halo 2 came out on the PC. By the time Halo 2 was ramping to get released, obviously
best line in the history of
seriously, is there any way to better tell a trailer? I mean, when you just look at this, this is kind of the reason why I had to show this, was because one, this is, I would say, probably one of the best trailers of all time, and secondly, you couldn't, this for me was what this plus the original Halo trailer that was for the PC, ironically enough. This is just one of the most badass trailers ever. And I figured it was because it had such a big place in my heart. When I'm here, I'm talking about a video about, my history with Halo and everything else. It deserved to be part of it. So I made sure to put that trailer aside. The other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that I had cutaways, not just in case I made mistakes or anything like that. Every once in a while, obviously, I do flub. I'm sure that during this commentary, I made a few ums and things like that. Once again, going without a script. But there was an important thing about that, and that was that I needed to be able to trim down. I needed to have some B-roll shot. So right after I filmed this major part, this what you're watching right now, right after I filmed this is all one continuous shot. I keep cutting back and forth between it, but I basically did this one take, and I chopped it up later. But, in fact, actually, I did a second, right after I completed this, I thought, maybe this isn't going to be enough. And I actually shot a second video. This was probably one of the best scenes in the history of Halo. Probably not the best scene. I can think of maybe one or two scenes that I liked a lot more. But this, for me, probably was one of the best scenes. And the funny thing is, when you listen to Ron Perlman talking here, what he's talking about is just so relevant to today's times. And I'm sure that's intentional. I'm certain that's intentional. It's just so relevant. If I stood in front of Arlington Cemetery, oh gosh, of course, obviously, I even put the subtitle right there. I completely forgot I even put that subtitle. It's been a while since I made this. If I said this at Arlington Cemetery in front of like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or something like this, everybody would think I'd be talking about either the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, heck, any war would probably be relevant to this. If there was a dedication to something real world that I ever had to dedicate for a war memorial or a war monument or something like this, this is the speech that I would write. And not too many people obviously know Halo. They wouldn't know what that speech had come from. I would have done this. I would have done this speech. This is a great scene.
I can't forgive you. But
it's not just about the chief. It's not just about the end of the war. It's about two species getting together. It's about overcoming differences, overcoming the past, basically. It's a fitting end to Halo 3. Obviously, there's still that loose thread of the Chief. But this was for a lot of people. Some people probably didn't even see the ending coda where the Chief is alive. You watch this, you think the Chief is dead. And it took how long to I actually had to trim that. If you notice that, for those of you guys who don't know this scene, I actually did a pretty bad cut there. I'm sorry about that, but there was nothing I could do. There was a cut aside there where and there's the Chief's designation. They were really clear about the Chief's designation as Spartan John 117 in the books, but there was only a couple of references of the Chief's Spartan designation. I'm sure they did that intentionally. The Chief needed to be less human or be more of an everyman, and so they didn't really refer to him as John that often. I think he might have been mentioned as John at the end of Halo 3, but that was it. And there was one reference to Spartan 117 at the end of Halo 2, but that was it basically. The books, for those of you who might have read the books, and I love the books.
Can you hear me? I thought I'd lost you.
Yeah, I had to include this. So, as I said before, this was tenfold. The three stories I had to say was I had to make it clear, because maybe there are some people out there that have picked up copies of Halo 4 and possibly even copies of Halo 2 or Halo 3 or even the re-release of Halo 1. In fact, there's some rumors going around. They're not substantiated, but there are some rumors that Halo 2 and possibly even Halo 3 might actually get re-released for the Xbox One this year, because Halo 5 might not come out. It might not be coming out until next year. That is not substantiated. I have not seen anybody mention this or talk about what Microsoft's plans for Halo are this year. But I'm sure that by the time of E3 comes around, we'll know what Microsoft has planned for the rest of the year. I really would like to see Halo 2 come back. It's my favorite of the Halo series, ironically enough. But for some people, they're just not clear on how excruciating. I mean, I had to show them, obviously, how this ended, how this really ended, basically. And so basically take this scene and then add 5 years, basically. So beautifully shot. So I had a lot of things coming together. I had my plan for this. I had Halo 4's imminent release. But I think the thing that really sparked my desire to do this, or at least said, I have to do this now. Sometime around the release of Halo 3, I picked up Halo 3 over at GameStop. This was back in 2007 when Halo 3 came out. I'm not GameStop, Best Buy. And when I went to Best Buy, I was told I could get a hat or I can get a t-shirt along with it. And for years, and you guys have probably seen it in my videos, I had this shirt that simply said Halo 3 on it. It was obviously a shirt that I got along with promotion for Halo 3. Shortly before the release of Halo 4, I saw a very similar shirt on sale at Best Buy, which was pretty much identical version of that shirt, but Halo 4 instead of Halo 3. And I had in mind a scene which you were about to see in just a minute or two. And I said, this is exactly how I want to shoot it. This is exactly how I want to do it. And I have to do it on Halo 4's launch night. I have to record it. And my intention was to get the B-roll shots done. Because actually, even though I don't have too many options on video editing and things like that, it's actually not that time-consuming a process for me to do editing. Even for something like this, which was kind of complex, where I had voiceovers and I had shots and I had cutting in, I'm usually really good at remembering where I want to put things. I've seen some editors that actually don't know in advance. They write a script and then they don't know in advance what shots they want to use for background, what you're going to be seeing. Or we'll just cut together random stuff sometimes, like they'll talk about something and what you'll see on screen doesn't match what they're talking about because they just kind of put something that already been cut together, montage or something like that. In my case, obviously I don't have the world's best editor, but I do have a pretty good memory. And I already knew in advance what I was going to be cutting back and forth to, even when I was recording these lines, even when I was thinking about it and was doing this on screen, I knew what I was going to be cutting to back and forth. So I had some of the B-roll shot, the car sequences, which you saw already, and there's going to be another one coming up. I also knew what I wanted to say for the main role, although I didn't have the chance to shoot it. And I had some ideas for cutaways. You saw one of the cutaways ended up in this final documentary where I go through my Halo collection just to, make it clearer to the audience. There were Halo games released after Halo 3, but there weren't a lot of them. So I knew I had to do that. But originally my plan was to kind of talk about how merchandised Halo was, how crazy Halo merchandise had become by the point where this video was made. And honestly, at this point, there's already a new Halo comic book series that's being released as I'm recording this. And Halo Escalation already just hit number 5. So there is these stories are continuing basically. It is and on top of that, there are like several new novels which I haven't even picked up yet, let alone read. So it has gotten a bit crazy, but this is still something this is still untreaded ground basically. This was pretty untreaded ground, short of Pokemon. I can't think of any other, or like Mario or something. I can't really think of anything non-Nintendo related in this modern era which has been as franchised out as Halo. Nintendo stuff, sure, but for the most part, Nintendo stuff was really franchised out maybe 30 years ago. And here's another cutaway, which I shot. This is a true story, by the way. I'm not kidding. This place, which you're seeing right now, was opened shortly before the release of Halo 2. And the people that worked there at the time were just, I was a pretty abrasive guy. I still am in a lot of ways. But these people that worked there at the time were doing literally everything, and it got to a point where it was annoying. I can have a conversation with somebody. I can have a conversation with a clerk. I don't mind. I can deal with a line like, "Would you like fries with that?" or something like that. But it got to a point where, at least this particular day, and honestly, I've never had to deal with a problem like this since. I've actually have gone back there since. And so I did. But I have not. I remember going in there for the first time. But they have never. The clerks that work there have never given me much of a problem since. But for some, maybe they thought I was I don't know. Maybe they thought I was a secret shopper. The store had just opened, so maybe they thought I might have been a secret shopper or something like that. I don't know why. But yeah, they were really harassing me about pre-ordering for Halo 2. And by the way, for those of you guys who don't know, Halo 2, even Halo 2 limited collector's editions were not in short supply by any means. At least a year after Halo 2 came out, you could still find limited editions for sale on shelves. So there was literally, I know a lot of people pre-ordered this game for fun, and I totally encourage that. Nowadays, pre-ordering limited editions you must do that if you still want a limited edition. But back then, Microsoft really created a lot of copies of Halo 2 and Halo 2 Limited Edition. There was no shortage of supply. And there were a lot of myths going around that there was going to be pre-order DLC or there was going to be DLC in the Limited Edition. None of that happened. So, yeah, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. Once again, thanks to the unknown camera person for recording this. I actually am driving obviously, as you can see here, I am driving and talking to the camera. That's why I'm not talking to the camera. For those of you guys who have to do shots where you're talking to a camera while driving, I recommend wearing sunglasses because even though you're not looking at the camera, and you should be looking at the camera when you're doing these kind of interviews, you really can't tell that you're not looking at the camera when you've got sunglasses on. Okay, I'm parked here. Now I can look at the camera. I think this actually worked out pretty well. This music is Difference to Darkness that was released part of the Halo 3 ODST soundtrack. The Halo 3 ODST soundtrack is one of the most beautiful music that has ever been produced. I had to get it. This is the shot I was talking about earlier. I basically was able to do this. By the way, off screen you can't see them because they're behind the camera. But off screen, that's Disc Reader 117 back there. He and I did go to Halo Night together for the release of Halo 4. And that's his voice in the background that you can't really hear. But I knew that I wanted to use Difference for Darkness. Yeah, the unknown camera person. And by the way, another thanks to Justine for doing this. That's her website right there. She did a great. I'm trying to get her to do another title card for her. She's kind of busy. And another thanks for Princess Angel, my girlfriend, who I love. If she's listening to this, I love you, hun. She definitely hooked me up for that. She even asked, why did I get credited? But it was because she's so great. So take care, guys.